You are about to explore the greatest place in your life. It's great adventure. Ride the giant Ferris wheel. Look around for miles and miles. See the other rides down below. A place to bring the family. A place where you can really let go. Great adventure is here. It's a place to remember the rest of the year. Float on a flume ride and feel the greatest thrill in the world. At Great Adventure, laugh at the dolphins and the greatest high divers in all the world. At Great Adventure, a Johnson and a chariot race will put a smile upon your face and a root-toot Wild Western show. The big escape safari park of anywhere around you can go.
Great Adventure is off Exit 7A, New Jersey Turnpike. It's now open every day and every night from 10 to 10. So come any day, come any night. The greatest day in your life is here.
Open your eyes, the greatest day in your life is here. And Great Adventure, open your eyes.
That's not the Great Adventure I remember.
I was about one roller coaster in that thing.
I forgot to ask you if I'm allowed to laugh during that, and then I saw it was on mute.
I think our mics were muted anyway. All right. Hello and welcome to the second episode of Some Great Adventures, a podcast where three old buddies who met and worked at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey, just chat about their adventures at the park. I'm Steve Hicks, and my co-host are
Scott Loudon.
Chris Peluso.
all right. And also joining us from the background, handling the actual taping of the podcast, is our friend Ming Chen. He was a co-star of AMC's Comic Book Men, which, if you've never seen it, is available on Amazon Prime. You should check it out. It's pretty interesting. Pawn Stars with Comics. Pretty cool. Also, if you ever want to make a podcast, and let's face it, us three goofballs have no idea how to do this on our own. So that's why Ming is here. Just reach out to Ming, who co-owns the Shared Universe Podcast Studio. You can find them right on their website or on the Facebook page. So, gentlemen, let's jump right into it. The last podcast, we talked about our backgrounds, and we've all had various positions at Six Flags. We're kind of all jacks of trades there. Some more than others. I didn't even realize, Peluso, all the shit you did. You kind of blew me away a little bit. I think most of us know. Yeah, you were a parkour. You just switched partners every month, every week.
Yeah. See what's happening over here.
I'm sick of Billy. Guys, that's it. I'm going over the game. I think most of us spent our time in rides. But you know what? Before we jump into that, I got to say something. I was super surprised by the feedback we got. We got a lot of feedback on the first podcast. And most of it, except the stuff about Scott, was all positive. I mean, Scott was all negative.
Yeah, can't we expect any less? I mean, that's why you have me here, right?
And one of them that had me cracking up the most, though, was after we talked about the Typhoon, a.k.a. the Vomit Twister, Jay Zabo wrote into me and was like, I think I deserve a shout-out because you assholes made me work that vomit ride for one full season.
You put on that a whole season? I don't know.
He did. I actually forgot, too, until he said it. I was like, he does deserve a shout-out.
Yeah, what the hell did he do to deserve that? I mean,
I was the lead.
Never had any problems.
I was the lead for a season and a half, so I feel his pain.
we understand why you were there, Chris, but we
Yeah,
just don't understand why this.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about the differences between a new ride soup and an experienced ride soup. I know we both have some, all of us have some ideas about the differences, and they're pretty big. I remember my first week as a ride soup. Generally, what the public probably doesn't know, but it makes absolute sense, is that when you're first promoted, you're not on your own. You're shadowed by an experienced soup. And they, the amount of time they shadow you really depends on basically when they determine you're safe. You can be on your own, So for some people,
I was basically shadowed for months.
I don't want to say it, but some people are shadowed for months, maybe a season. Some people are shadowed for a week, you know?
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely. They're never left alone.
I think I'm still being shadowed to this day.
You're not even there, right?
Did you ever see The Grudge where that ghost stands on the guy's shoulders?
Critiquing how bad he's doing every day.
Just the same thing with a little notepad, a little spiral
Exactly.
flip pad.
He's getting his daily demerits. My first day, I went into Backstage Dining and I was being shadowed by Kenny Mount. And Kenny's like, you know, you always have to take a break. I'm going to teach you this early. Like, just take a break. You've got to go to Backstage Dining, which is ironic because I know, Chris, me and you've talked about this. Toward the last couple of years I was a soup. Did you ever go to Backstage Dining?
No. Yeah, it was like once in a blue moon that you'd see me there. That's about it.
Yeah. Same here. Time you go there, so you got a call or something breaks down or something happens. It just wasn't worth the fucking chicken tenders, you know. It's just like
I became very acquainted with those vending machines over by Wardrobe.
Exactly. But so it was like my first day, I think, and we went to Backstage Dining, and you know, we get our hot dogs and hamburgers that the hell we had because there was not a lot of selection there at the time, and we go and we sit down and I have a big old cup of soda. And, you know, back then the cups didn't even have tops. They were just open. You stick your straw in or you just drink it out of the side. Got my radio there. Kenny's on the other side of me. And first thing that happens as we sit down, base to 140, my hand shoots out to grab the radio. It's that big-ass big gulp. And pushes it's all over the table, all over the food. The radio's now doused, which is one of the number one things you don't do is get your radio wet. And I'm just looking at him, and he's just dying, just fucking dying. But that was like a learning lesson, though, man. Like, holy shit, just take a pause. Every time a call comes in, take a pause. You don't need to rush. You know, like that's definitely like experience versus new soup thing, you know. But what about you guys? You guys have any stories about like when you were new soups, or know of any new soups that kind of went off the rails?
You go ahead, Scott.
Scott's got one. I can hear him laughing.
I can tell. I saw his face.
Yeah. Well, there's that one. I mean, I'm sure that I looked just as big a fool when I was a new supervisor. I mean, there's like your new supervisor normal stuff, and then every new supervisor knows eventually they're going to come to the point where they get, you know, their first power failure park-wide, and then that's when everything just goes off the hook. But I remember distinctly one time at the when you and I were at the top of the Asian Tower, right, in Adventure Rivers. And I know we're not saying last names, but we'll just say Mike was a new soup.
Wait, Mike Crash.
Yeah, well, it might be. But me and you were at the top of the Asian Tower when the power went off, and he came running through, and he was running through the weeds and like all the high like trunk willows and the Congo Rapids for some reason, like a maniac. And it was like that scene out of Better Off Dead where John Cusack falls into the dump truck, and we just look at each other like, yeah, damn shame when new soup goes running around like a crazy man like that.
I do remember that. Yeah. That Crash family, they did a lot of damage at the park, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. In Mr. Crash's defense, I'll throw out there that maybe nothing specific when I was new, but I was like Forrest Gump. Like, people were looking at that boy is a running fool. I would run back and forth through the park. You would have thought the place was on fire. At one point, it was the Freefall operator had such a good view of me as they would see me going back and forth. And I think at the time there was a promo where it was like, there goes that news van again. So that's what they used to always say when they would see me going by. There goes that news van again. Because they'd see me blow by back and forth all day long. And then I learned, hey, a brisk walk is appropriate in most cases until you get to a back area. And then even still, you can take a beat. It's all good. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, but that's totally true. And that is absolutely a huge difference between a new soup and an old soup. New soups run through that park and every guest is like, "Holy shit! There's somebody's getting shot, somebody's getting killed," because they are running through like almost screaming as they're doing it. Whereas suits are just like they're walking. It's a brisk walk. They're walking.
Exactly. You know, you might have a breakdown. You might have to pee. Either one. You know what I mean? Like not a big.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's. All right. Well, while we're talking about breakdowns, let's talk about some weird breakdowns because we that's one thing we've definitely all experienced. I'll kick that off. One of the most breakdowns that bums me out the most, which is probably still happening to this day because I don't think they've ever figured out a way to stop it, is the raccoons in the belts at the hydro flume and especially the log flume. And this is something guests will never be aware of, but employees in rides are like, basically the raccoons go underneath. There's 2 lifts on the log flume and one on the hydro flume. And, you know, the thing that brings those boats up is just a big old belt. It's a big old conveyor belt. For whatever reason, the raccoons like to try to go underneath the conveyor belts. I don't know if they think it's where they can make a house. I don't know what it is, but every single year those raccoons go under there, and it's usually not one. It's like a family. And every year you can't see them. They're in a spot on lift 2 at the log flume where there's no way to see them when you do the ride check in the morning. And you're kind of glad about that because, I mean, you really don't want to come face-to-face with the raccoon from like a foot away anyway, to be honest with you. But you can't see them. And then you fire up the ride, and all you hear is, and that's it. The raccoon is now just nothing. They're like nothing left.
Maybe it's like the Heaven's Gate cult. Maybe they wanted to end it. They were just going to look
it could be, yeah, that could be it. It could be a suicide cult. Who the hell knows, you know? I mean, there were at least 2 years that I was at Log Flume that I remember both as a lead and as a supervisor 120 killing off almost an entire family. And not on purpose. Like, you can't do anything about it. I mean, they just keep going under. You're like, didn't you learn from your dad yesterday?
Exactly. Help us help you. And there's nothing you can do about it. What are you supposed to do? Poor raccoon.
There's nothing you can do. And the worst is the mechanics, because the mechanics would have to come and actually pull them out of the belt. And it was like, oh yeah, it's a horror, man. It's a horror. What about you guys? You have any nature gone amok breakdowns?
Yeah. Chris, you mind if I go first?
Oh, go right ahead.
So yeah, I mean, this one was by far one of my strangest calls at the Congo Rapids, where there was a family of geese that were swimming around toward the bottom of the ride. And, you know, they stopped like loading people. It was like some huge emergency. And I get there, and the guys that worked in Fiberglass, I remember the one guy's name was Dougie who was there. And the other guy, I don't remember the other guy's name. Do you remember the other guy's name? What? Okay. And was he the one who was like more like hardcore, like high strung, like, because
Dougie was the younger guy. Pat was more of the Mario Brothers looking guy.
Yeah. So it was Dougie. And you remember the third guy, the guy that was like bugging
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name. I know exactly who you're talking about. I don't remember his name though.
I probably forgot his name on purpose because he was so intense. Like he was like kind of frightening, but
he's angry.
So we'll just call him Fiberglass Guy. But he went down there and he like, you know, took care of business. He went and scooped up like half of the family of like ducklings or gooselings or whatever they're called, and he's running up. He gets to like the center dock and he starts to cross over the boat to get onto the center island to let the geese go. And Andy Kerr was operating. Oh, this isn't a bad story, so I could say his last name, but he's operating, and he started the boat moving forward on the belt before the guy.
I know this story.
And the guy like flipped over, you know, feet overhead onto the belts down below. Somehow he was like a football player. He didn't fumble the ball. He still had the geese. He got up and he looked at Andy like he was going to kill him. And Andy's like, I don't know. I didn't know. He's like, the guy came out of nowhere. He's like all upset. I was like, it's all right, Andy. We're not gonna fire you or demote you and transfer you yet. We're gonna wait for you to forget to do the crossing signal to do that. So, and then the most craziest thing is, I had to go and settle the guy down. I still don't remember his name, but I was like, look, I was like, there was an accident. He didn't see you coming. Like, he was out for blood. He wanted to kill Andy. So,
He talked about all year. All year that fiberglass dude was pissed at Andy. The whole effing rest of the year. I remember every morning at checks, he'd be evil eyeing him. I remember that.
and he would say, don't send that guy down here to talk to me. He's like, don't let him talk to me. But
Yep.
I got to give him credit, though. He only lost one of the what do you call a baby goose? Like a goslin?
Yeah, I guess that's a gosling.
We only lost one goslin that day, and it was in the most messed up way because it was swimming. It was swimming against the current, and a boat came, and all we saw was the goslin was there, and then the boat was there, and then the goslin wasn't there anymore, and we thought it was a magic trick until we saw the gosling without a head floating by, but that wasn't the worst thing that was possibly in that water. There's a lot of scary things in that water over the years, but yeah. So that was my nature story.
Nice. What about you, Bluso?
Yeah, definitely. I was a senior for this, but I was definitely running. I was doing a shift change, I guess, up at the office, and about just gathering stuff, getting ready, and can't remember her name. Who was in dispatch just starts yelling to me. Heidi, yeah. Yes. Heidi yes. Oh my God, that's amazing. Yes, Heidi. She starts yelling, Chris, you got to get the Batman. So I come running out of the office. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, she had her hands up in the air. She's like, there's bees all over Batman. There's bees. So she goes, yeah, I get that. I was like, okay. And I actually did run, and I thought it was justified for sure. I get there. I cross over through the train, through the back. And I get to the platform, and it looked like I was in a bad B movie because the whole platform had at least a dozen guests laying there, writhing in pain from so many bites on their legs, holding their heads, holding their eyes, their arms. And I was just like, whoa. So I'm like, but I don't see any bees, So they're like, they're on the lift, So they were pointing. They're like on the lift. I go out about 10 feet onto the lift, and you didn't see it. You couldn't see it when you were walking out to it. But as soon as you went at about 10 feet, I was engulfed in bees. There were wasps, bees, everything just flying all around. Visibility was low. That's how many bees there were. I don't know if it worked or not, but I was like, let's send empty trains. Send it through the bees.
You couldn't just send regular trains full of people.
For the true adventurers, we should have offered that. I really do think we should. Front row through the swarm.
Right? Anybody want the front row? Go ahead. Now's your opportunity.
Yeah, no. And then, we started to get them to dissipate and everything. And then about 5-10 minutes later, I remember like it was yesterday, I get a call from Billy, who's aware of it by now, but wasn't there. And he's like, can you come out front? He goes, it's much worse. I'm like, how the hell could it be much worse? I go out to the front, and one of those planters off to the left of the Batmobile was just thick of an enormous swarm of bees and wasps, which I also thought was weird too. I didn't even know they got along. It was bees and wasps, so it wasn't just one or the other. I vividly remember both, and they were all together. It must have been a big party. They, maybe they got a group rate or something for GA that day. But yeah, and I remember Mike from Grounds coming with the whole Grounds crew with a bunch of cans of insecticide, thinking that if they tried to spray them with this insecticide, they would have died. They would have been killed. So we ended up just quarantining the whole area off about 50 yards all around it. And they had their day at the park, and then they moved on. Maybe they went to Disney. I don't know, but they never came back again. But that was my when animals attack GA experience. My favorite for sure.
I love it. What about? Here's a weird one. We may never even talk about this one before. What about gross breakdowns? Can you think of any gross breakdowns? Like we talked last podcast about the typhoon, which is obviously gross because of the throw up factor, right? But I remember covering 130 once, and the fucking ball crawl went down 7 times in one shift. And you know why it went down? Why would the ball crawl the kiddie area go down?
I'm gonna admit something to you guys right now. You might even be pissed because I don't know what your deal is with it.
You went in the ball crawl?
Once. Now I had to really go. No, I've actually never worked Bugs Bunny Land. Not 1 hour, not 1 minute. Never had to work it. Have you guys
Really?
ever?
Not even having
Never.
you never covered 130?
I covered 130 for a brief moment, never for a full day or anything like that. And
Wow,
I never even had to go there as far as coverage. I guess I might have had to go there for coverage or whatever, but I never had to work it. And I remember Soups always having to fill in and work it and whatnot. I don't know how it happened. I never tried to avoid it, but somehow I lucked out. I never had to work that. Never had to work Koala Canyon. Another fun one.
So when you sent all those employees to BBL and you always sent them saying, we all have to put our time in, you were just a lying motherfucker.
Huge hypocrite. Huge hypocrite. And I didn't even know I was doing it to them. Because I never experienced it myself.
Wow, I went to
somehow, some way, just luck of the draw.
Well,
just luck of the draw.
From work crew though, you know what the ride went, what the ball crawl goes down for. You know from work crew why that ball crawl gets called down.
Yeah, I also know from work crew our wonderful cleaning method of those balls.
It's about the same cleaning method as Koala Canyon. So.
Yeah, and the Typhoon, just minus the soap. Typhoon, no soap, just water.
Hey, those balls air dry, man. They air dry.
Exactly.
Koala Canyon used to crack me up because it would go down because of pee or poop, and basically they would just come over to water treatment guys and shock the fuck out of the water. There'd be so much stuff they would dump in the water that you're like, how is it not burning kids alive when they step into the water,
Yeah, the best was they're seeing the employees argue over who had to scoop the baby roots out of the water. Yeah, they were like, you do it. No, you do it. It was like us when we were working at the video store in the off season when we argued about who had to put away the stickies, the adult films we called the stickies in the back room. All the cases were it was nasty. That was a story for another day, but Koala Canyon was bad.
Hey Chris, I'm proud to say that in both instances I won. I didn't touch those videos and I didn't clean the Koala Canyon.
Yeah, damn shame. I always lost. It was like we weren't even at the park. He wasn't even my boss. And I'm still putting away those nasty stickies.
That was my rule. That was my rule at the video store. I do not touch the adult boxes. I do not touch those things. If Big Al gave us gloves, I might touch it, but otherwise, no.
Like, why are you calling Scott sticky?
I can't get these papers off of my hands. They just stick to them.
I mean, we're a little off topic, but Chris, let me tell you, when the same guy comes in for the 4th time at the video store in about 3 hours, it's like
got a lot of endurance,
dude. You got a problem.
He's got a lot of stamina, though. You got to look at the positives. He's got a lot of stamina.
He's not even looking at the story. He's just fast forwarding to the good parts.
That's pretty true. Yeah.
He doesn't even know the stories.
Wait, they have stories?
respect the storyline, man.
Do I remember something, though, when we speak about Koala Canyon? Wasn't there something about a person there who was, kind of worked up and aroused or something?
Yeah,
we're going to have to get Vanderham on here at some point. Because that was it.
I don't remember this story, so this is definitely one we're going to have to go back to someday with Vanderham for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Speedo, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
All right. We'll have to leave that one for when he's on. So we'll
take it
Yeah.
Scott wants to talk about being aroused in Koala Canyon. I wrote the note down.
There we go. There we go. Something about a Speedo.
I would like to state that has nothing to, in any way, shape, or form have to do with me. That's somebody else completely. I just remember the story.
Exactly. The call was interesting too. Not nearly as bad as the ball crawl. But Batman would get closed for I have to retrieve a leg. And the eyeball was a little,
man.
you know, I was happy to do it, of
I think
course.
I remember
but
that.
Retrieving a glass eye is a little on the gross side, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I did find one. There have been a few, but I didn't, you know, with that were not recovered. But I did find one once.
Wait, there were a few glass eyes that weren't recovered?
Yeah, oh yeah. Now, I mean, it's small. There's lots of rocks and stuff like that. I think I was batting about 250. I want to say about 4 eyeballs and only 1 recovered.
Well, you know, that gets you to the big leagues. 250.
Yeah. You know, I would say it would put me above the base salary.
Okay,
You know, so I'll take.
So that now that you brought up eyeballs missing, so that reminds me of my most disgusting non-puke or poop story. Is I wasn't a soup, but I was the lead at the Dream Street Cables, the east side, you know, the good side of the cables where all the action happened.
Dream on.
And so we got a call that somebody lost a finger in the door of the Sky Ride.
I remember
And
this.
the most fucked up thing was the person's finger got chopped off in the door, and it was a kid, and they got the family out, you know, immediately and got the medical care, but they forgot to get the finger. So they sent the fucking the car out the station from the west side, which I can imagine, you know, I'd be pretty upset too if that happened, and I would probably not be thinking about getting the finger either. But we get a call.
I was gonna say, was it a middle finger?
Actually, I don't know. To this day, I don't know which finger it was.
Because at least it would be funnier.
So, and we get a call, you know, and I was a lead, so it came in on the phone. Yeah, we're gonna stop loading people immediately and start looking in every car for a finger. I'm like, what? Like, so I had everybody, you know, we did exactly what they said. We started parking the cars. We were looking in every single car for the finger. We couldn't find the thing. And we're looking for like a half hour. Finally, somebody from investigations comes down and he's going through the cars. He finds it in like 5 seconds. It was crazy. It was like in the, you know, the seam where the door meets the car and the hinge.
Yeah.
It was in there. So grabbed it, threw it in a cup of ice, and they took off real quick, you know, to the hospital so they can reattach it to the kid's hand. But yeah, that was definitely my, you know, I wanted to find the finger, but I didn't want to be the one to find the finger. You know, that was definitely
Yeah,
exactly. I was happy to find the eyeballs, you know, and I felt terrible, you know, but it's, you know.
Well, it'd be different if it was an actual eyeball, like glass eye. Okay, but they have like the optic nerve hanging off of it and everything.
No. Like I said, we're not wearing gloves or anything, you know.
What'd you do? You just spit on it and wipe it off and give it back to
you know,
them?
I dusted it off. It's all good.
Pre-COVID days, that was acceptable back then.
Exactly.
So what about all right, let's get off the gross ones. What about, I'll be honest with you, I was never, unless it was like I was covering 130 night. 130 is the only section I didn't know well enough to ever feel fully comfortable. Every other section, even 150, only because I covered it so many times, I felt comfortable and I never worried about breakdowns. 130, for some reason, I was always nervous about the fucking Scream Machine, just because, you know, I didn't know it well enough. Like, as far as a breakdown, I never had to evacuate the fucking Scream Machine on my own. Honestly, I got lucky because every time I covered it, the mechanics or the fucking team leads would be able to do anything. If we ever take them down from the lift, they were already done before I even got to the ride. Like, they knew their shit so well. But I'm thinking about, like, most times when a ride broke down, I didn't have any problems with it. I actually kind of enjoyed it. To me, it was like, that's what I'm here for. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm really good at it, and I like it. So, like, when I loved getting calls at the big wheels on balance, and it used to crack me up because you could hear it before you even got the radio call from base. You could hear, like, the other side of the park, and you're like, fuck. Who's operating the big wheel right now? It was like a fucking great challenge because that's something where I would say probably like maybe 1 out of every 20 ride soups knew how to go in there, step in that booth, and automatically rebalance it without having to unload the whole fucking thing. Generally, most of them would just start unloading, let the weight bearing go down, unload, deal with the yells, and that's it. Because everyone's screaming at you because it's the scariest thing in the world because big wheel runs off of tires, his brakes, and they just squeal when it's unbalanced. So you hear it. It sounds like a cat being killed throughout the entire park, nonstop. Or even better, it's so unbalanced, it doesn't stop. It just keeps going.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
But
The best was
guys, got
there was only one employee I knew who could unbalance or rebalance the wheel without a supervisor, and that was this guy right here. I learned that if you press the inch button and the stop button continuously back to back, like repetitively, that fucking wheel would go in reverse for as long as you wanted it to until you let go of the buttons, and then it would stop on its own, so you could get whoever had unbalanced the wheel off. So
right.
it was great. It was like a rare power for a red tag to have. I could show up, people would call me like, "Hey Scott, the wheel's unbalanced. I don't want to call the supervisor. Can you come over?" And like inch stop, inch stop, inch stop, inch stop. Oh yeah, money shot. We're out of here. It was great.
Well, that was a great one. I also love the rapids. I mean, it took a skill to operate rapids in manual. If you had to actually like know how to actually run it in manual, just like sitting there run it. I mean, I know, Scott, there were times when me and you, when we're bored, would just go over there and do it in manual just to keep our fucking skills up. Not really supposed to. We told the boys not to do it, but we do it,
Well, I remember sometimes we would do it and, make Kenny Kravitsky unload during it just so we can make him work even harder. You're like,
we did do that.
Come on, Kenny. Pick it up, Kenny. Pick it up. Pick up the pace. But yeah, I mean, and it's weird because I was there a few years ago with my family and it's totally different now. It's like, and it probably makes a lot more sense the way they're doing it now, but the boats just continuously move along the platform very slowly. So there's no start and stop of the boats anymore. So it takes all the fun out of it. I mean, if you're like the ride operator, you're just sitting there watching the boats like coming through the platform basically.
Well, it's funny. If you think about it, it does take all the fun out of it, but it also takes all the lawsuits out of it.
Yeah.
Yep. But that was a great ride, man. The work, that was awesome.
What about you guys? Were there any breakdowns you guys just loved to go to? Like you knew you had that shit?
Oh, Rapids was mine for sure. I mean,
oh yeah, free fall and Batman for sure. Just felt I enjoyed the calm. I actually thrived off of just jumping into free fall position, and after a while, wasn't that way early on. There was still always a little something, because you're in free fall position, But no, I enjoyed because you either had somebody in there that was extremely irate. You had somebody in there that was very scared most of the time, and just getting them into a better place and showing them like, nah, it's all good. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have you out of here in a few minutes. All good. And we're gonna take a walk
is
down
also
there.
You nailed it, Fluso. That's also a huge difference between a new soup and experienced soup, though. New soups go to breakdown scared shitless, and they have no poker face. That conveys right to the crowd. And experienced soups, they almost don't trust you because they're like, you're too fucking calm. What is up with you?
Exactly. And I would always try to it's 13 stories. I wasn't fat at the time, but still 13 stories. So I would always give myself a beat, before getting into the car. And nobody could beat Kevin up those stairs, although it was always funny to hint at it every now and then because it would drive him nuts. Kevin was Superman going up those steps. I don't think Superman could beat Kevin up those steps, but still, it was fun to mess with him. But yeah, I used to get up there pretty fast myself too, but I needed a breather. I need a little breather. Let me give myself a second.
We had the same car.
Don't worry, I gotta take a breath. take a breath with me as I catch my breath.
Yeah, the mechanics would always be like that, They'd be up there like, take a breath, kid. Don't worry about it. Take a breath. Like up there on top of the car looking down at you. So great.
I'm surprised, Scott. You said Rapids. I thought Flying Wave would be your ride, but, anyway.
I thought I didn't want to go there because, that was awesome because it would just come down and, people would get off and you'd be fine. You'd be like, all right, done. My bad. My work here is done.
I figured it was more your speed. You can handle it real easy.
That reminds me of two, like you touched on the tires. I got to touch on that with my Lupin Starship, but also real fast about Flying Wave. I actually had a Signal 2 on the centrifuge one time. That was, for anybody who's not sure, that is a scrambler, at most places. So very unusual Signal 2. I think within about 3 seconds of being there, I jiggled the little pin, pulled it out, and they were done. So So there was a very simple evacuation, but we did have a signal 2 on the centrifuge one time. But one of my absolute favorites, my man Brian, great lead, maybe not his greatest moment, but he very, very one of my favorite leads though. Looping Starship was an alpha, which means like even because the slightest rain, I always thought was the worst case scenario for it. Heavy rain, I think, was better in some ways. The slightest rain, because you get that gleam on the tires, and nothing was stopping the ship. And sure enough, it's signal 2, and I'm like, signal 2, what's going on? Like, I'm heading over. I can see it as I'm going there. It's flying. It's looping over and over again. And as you get there, it was one of my, I always thought it was the most hilarious because they're on probably about loop 10 by the time I even got there. And it normally only does 2 to 3 loops. They're probably on 10, maybe even more by the time I get there. And you just hear them as they come into the station, like, you stupid son of a bitch, stop this ride. I'm going to kill you if you don't stop it. Stop the fucking ride. I'm going to kill you if you don't stop this ride. And they're just going around. And Brian's coming in and out of the booth going, everybody remain calm. Surprisingly wasn't helping. It wasn't helping, you know. So
didn't you have like a loudspeaker you could talk to them over? Or?
Oh yeah. It was like I said, one of my favorites. Maybe not his best moment, but and not his fault either. It was probably a sun shower that came on very quickly. Yeah, just absolutely hysterical. And I think they easily did 20 loops that day. It was that was an intense
happy. They got an extra long ride.
They got like 10 rides out of 1. I mean, I don't know.
You know, it's funny. Now, you just made me think of another one. So, same thing. So, this is old school, too. I mean, we're talking early, this is 80s. The Runaway Train, as a roller coaster, used to run 3 trains, which they stopped doing because the crew just could not. You had to be really good at that ride to be able to load and unload 3 trains. It was just, you had to have them out. You had like a minute and a half to get them unloaded from in the station and reload it, get the train out. But the cooler thing about it is, in the old days, it was also a tire-driven brake system. So it used to have 2 sets of 3 tires that would rotate backwards and actually just slow it down like that, right? Now it's not like that. It's a metal-controlled system. It's basically a metal brake pad that just cinches in and stops on a dime. Tires and rain, as we just discussed, are very bad. And same thing. They would get an instant sun shower you wouldn't expect. Those tires got wet, and the trains would not stop. You couldn't do shit about it, and they would just come in, and everybody exactly like you. Let us all, and they're out. Trains coming in, and now there's
so
people
good.
like coming up the exit going, "Why are my kids going around again?
Stop the ride! Why don't you stop
You need
it?"
to be stairs. I'm gonna kill you.
Everyone's just yelling, "Why won't you stop it?" Like we're crazy. I should have just started laughing like.
It was crazy, man. It was great, but that actually is one of my favorite memories of being a black tag and just watching the trains going in, going out, going in, going out. And you're just sitting there going, "Oh shit, I'm gonna either get hit or they're gonna figure it out." I don't know, you know.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, you know, all those times are funny as hell. Like when you know that everybody's safe, but they're all worked up and everything because of what's going on. But you know, there's no possibility they're going to get hurt.
Absolutely, they're locked in. They're fine.
Yeah, but as a rides person, I mean, I know you guys just like me care deeply about the safety of the people like in the ride. Like there was one time that somebody I saw like legitimately did something that was like unsafe, and I fired him on the spot for it.
Right.
But I have to say, yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah, it was funny as hell when you know that it was just, you know, there wasn't any risk to the person, but.
Right.
There's nothing we could do.
Yeah, just like we were talking about the other day about you know, a ride that's signal 2 that you're not going to evacuate. You're not going to, but they want to. There's people on that train that don't want to go, and you got to convince them to go over the top. I used to always be up on top of Batman at the top of the crown of the lift, saying, all right, we got to talk them into going over the top. So I'd get up there and I'd be like, who is it? They would point me to that row. I want off of this ride. And that it was usually about a 3 to 5 minute conversation about computer errors and everything. And sometimes it was just send it.
I'll be honest with you. When Rolling Thunder would have a train stuck on the top of the lift and we knew that we could get it fixed and sent over so we didn't have to unload them, I would go up there with whoever the employee was. And as soon as you got that first guy that's like, oh, no, I'm coming off. I used to actually do this. I'm sorry, what? And then the second they would tell me you're good to go, I'd be like, I can't hear you, but I'll talk to you when you're in. And then we'd run down.
Yeah, exactly, though, because the rule on probably a lot of the coasters, but definitely Batman, is you couldn't take one person off. No, if you were going to evacuate, you
have to lock it out, shut the power down, pick everybody out. Yep.
Yeah, so that's why you had to convince them to go over the top.
100%.
Yeah,
100%, man. Well,
let's give them the over the top speech, like when you turn your hat around facing backwards, so the wind doesn't blow it off, but also so it gives you courage. Over the top, baby.
We got enough time to hit the Big Daddy. Let's talk about the Big Daddy of breakdowns. So you're having a good day. Park is completely full, but everybody, you got staffing out your ass. There's people everywhere. You're just chilling, and then it gets quiet. So fucking quiet, and you know what's about to come. Signal 2, power failure.
Man, I love you talking about the quiet. It was so eerie, and I used to always hear.
You knew it. Oh, it's all of a sudden everything went quiet. Like people weren't even talking in the park. The guests weren't there anymore.
It was like your spidey senses started to tingle, like you knew. And that was like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but as a ride soup, that's what I lived for, man.
That was the great.
That was my reason for being,
I loved it, man. So why don't we take it, Scott? I think you're basically 140, 160 for the most part, so you probably had it easiest out of all of us on power failure.
Oh, yeah.
Where would you have to go? What? I mean, so just for the uninitiated, when you have a power failure, the flat rides you don't give a flying fuck about. You ain't going to the rotor. You ain't going to the scrambler. You don't care because they're just going to drop down and they're going to be exited off the ride, and that's it. All you care about are your big rides. And basically, you care about the big rides where something might stick where you can't get the people off easily. That's what you care about. So, from your perspective, in 140, 160, like, where would you go? What would you do?
Yeah, in my time at Great Adventure, I somehow managed to successfully avoid ever learning anything about roller coasters because I was in those two sections. So. But yeah, I mean, 140 was simple. You go to Cables, the important side of Cables, the Dream Street side, where they had that little VW bus engine like this to get the people off the ride if the power went down, and they'd start it up, and it would you'd choke on the fumes while the cars were coming in, but you get them all off before you shut that engine back down. So, and then when you were done there, you went to the big wheel. But, Adventure Rivers 160 was much better because, well, you had the Riptide, which was kind of like an afterthought. I mean, you would always go to Rapids first because basically, power failure is like a flush. And for anybody who doesn't know how the Rapids works, is a flush is everybody in the boats gets sucked into the reservoir where all the extra water goes when the ride's off, and you got to basically, get everybody evacuated from there. So it takes a long time, and it's, a process to get everybody out, and you got to get it all sorted out, so everybody's safe and all. So that was basically the whole secret of 140, 160.
You never were a super Condor was a 140.
Condor?
Yeah, you weren't a super then, right? Condor was a nightmare.
Skull Mountain, which was like the bitch of roller coasters, like the little bitch, and that was there. And I had to evacuate that once or twice. But I just, like you, I went, if I didn't know the ride, I went to the lead, and hopefully they were a good lead. And I was like, all right, what do we do?
That was also a baby coaster. I mean, that was a baby coaster. It was the test version of the ride that the park bought. It was a piece of shit version of it. It's not even the real, coaster. That was a baby coaster, though.
Which one's that? Skull Mountain?
What's that?
Which one's Skull Mountain?
Skull Mountain.
Oh, yeah, it's such a great breakdown there with Karen.
Yeah, Six Flags was notorious for buying like the first version of a ride before they mass produced it into a bigger version. They did that all the time.
Dude, it had 3 horizontal loops. I used to crack up every time the commercial came on. I'm like, everybody would be like, what the hell's a horizontal loop? Just going around in a circle.
We used to call it like a saddle or a twister, but now we're getting a little fancy, you know?
3 horizontal loops. I used to love that commercial. It was so good.
But
Oh,
you're
man.
pulling like 1.5 G's going through that.
Oh, yeah. No, me and Karen had a great, it was early on. It had just opened, I think, only for like months or whatever. I guess I got like some sort of battlefield promotion where I don't know if I was operating or covering 3 sections or something, but I was there with Karen and neither of us knew anything about Skull Mountain and we had to evacuate. And there was some sort of power pack that weighed a ton that you had to carry all the cars to get people out. Karen and I got that shit done, though. It was freaking awesome. I still remember that today.
Karen's Scott's friend Karen? Who
No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I was going to say, like, Karen, like, that rode you before she rode me. Like, you and Karen were in the dark together. How'd that go? Was that, you know?
Well, we should clarify what we're talking about because that didn't come across very well to the person that doesn't know what you two are talking about.
Exactly. There was no riding.
Why don't we clarify? I think we're having a conversation about new soups versus old soups again, but the audience doesn't know this right now, okay?
Very important to clarify.
Very,
very important to clarify this. I believe what Scott was referring to is in our first year, there was always a senior supervisor that a full timer that would be the bad cop, and then there was always a good cop. Karen was definitely mine and Scott's bad cop, and she rode us, if you will, to make sure that we were the best supervisors that we could be. And I was in my second season, so I was past that point. It was great. My initiation was done. Thankfully.
I would concur with you, Chris, except for the fact that, like, I feel like I got ridden for all 3 of my seasons.
Just like that looping Starship ride, Loudon. You got more bang for your buck than me, man. I should be jealous of you.
Well, when you put it that way, I kind of feel good about it. Okay.
Exactly, man. Just look at it a different way. That's all. You got more attention than I did.
But, like, I mean, come on. She was like the scariest one out of all of them to get, like, get on you. That was like
Karen could, yeah. She was tough, very tough, and also awesome. And Phyllis was our good cop. And equally awesome, equally comforting, and offering guidance. They were both fantastic. Phyllis used to always have to wake me up when I was on my like 6th double in a row or 10th double in a row. She'd call up. She'd be like, Chris.
She was awesome. Yeah. I love KK too. So when you're saying like Karen rode me, I'm like, whoa, I'm friends with her. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. We needed to quickly clarify that. Yes.
I guess it could have. People who don't know could have taken it a different way. Okay, I got you.
Well, I will tell you. You know what? Sometimes it's not good to get friendly with people because as a senior soup, if you were friendly with Bob Hoban and he liked you, you always knew it because he only did this to people he liked. He would smack you in the nuts with the battery of his radio when he walked by you. And you would never know it. You never see it coming. He would sidle by you from the side of you and then swing backwards. So
What
there's
the
no
hell
way
is that?
because he's walking up alongside you and his hand goes like this and he cracks you right in the nuts. And he's like, have a good day. And he walked by you.
Holy
Fucker, you know? That meant
Literally, Bob Hoban, the only thing that he ever said to me my whole time at Great Adventure was, I don't think they know what the fuck they're talking about, and I don't think you know what the fuck you're talking about either. That was it. That was the only time we've ever talked, and that was the extent of it. That was the whole conversation.
Oh my God.
one of my favorite parts about Hoban, though, he pulled no punches. He just said what the fuck he wanted to say. He didn't give a shit, you know?
He was an animal, and I mean it in a good way. He was fantastic. And,
Well, let me tell you something. You guys probably never heard of this, but when I was a black tag at the log flume, that motherfucker, this is a known thing, too, not a legend. This is true because I've seen it. He used to climb a fucking tree near the log flume to try to catch the people fucking off at Spillway and shoot. He would climb a fucking tree to catch us.
Yeah,
He was like,
hardcore.
fucking Hoban in a tree.
Yeah. Now I never got hit in the nuts by him, but his MO for me was always first year, or at least early on in the first year. What's your 20? What's your 20? What's your 20? And then eventually become, where can I 10 with you? You know what I mean? Like that was always how you could tell where you kind of got into better, good graces with him. When he would start asking you, where can he 10 with you? But yeah, he was straight to the point, no bullshitting. Yeah.
Well, I think by the time I made it to Ride Soup, he had already transitioned into like maintenance, right? Like he wasn't a Rides full timer anymore.
He did.
Right.
So yeah, that was we didn't have any cause to talk until the riptide went down because of lack of water, and he didn't like the answer I gave him when I said that the leaves during the fall were clogging up the grates and cutting off the water supply to the pumps. So I was like, after the conversation, I thought to myself, well, that went well. Okay.
I love that conversation, man. That's fantastic.
I gotta tell you, he hooked me up though, because at the end of like 2 seasons, I didn't even know they had this, but did you know in the maintenance shop up at the top, they had their own blueprinting? They had a guy, Adam, whose job was to take and run all the blueprints for all the rides coming in, new rides, old rides, everything. And his job, he had an office up there, was nothing but a blueprinting machine and blueprints. And that's what he did. He did architecture design for them and stuff, but basically he took care of all that type of stuff. I didn't even know that until I was going to special effects school, and one of my classes was architectural design. And I actually was doing ride design on purpose because I was like, fuck it, I worked at Six Flags. This is easy for me, right? I know this shit. And I told Hoban that, and he was like, Adam needs someone to help him over the winter. He's like, not for the full winter, but, once the park closed, he was like, you want to go up and do blueprinting? And I was like, fuck yeah. So for like 2 seasons, fall and spring, I got to go up there and just run fucking blueprints off for this guy because I knew how to do it. And on top of it, because of it, I got a copy of the blueprint for every ride in the park, which was fucking cool as shit.
Oh, that's badass.
I don't have them anymore. I wish I had them. I don't have them anymore. I actually donated them to my old school because I'm in a ride design class and they don't have any ride designs. Not shitting you. They used like a book that was like crap. And I was like, I got the blueprints. And they were like, what? I'm like, I'll bring them in. I donated them. So I regret that I did that now. I wish I had them. But but yeah, Hoban hooked me up. Hoban hooked me up.
That's awesome.
And now there's a 7 Flags over Pittsburgh that is,
Oh man, Pluso, did you talk about power failures? Anything special on your side? Oh, you had the waterworks, bitch.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny too because when we first started talking about breakdowns, your first instinct is Batman and Freefall, and then I was like, no, it's been a while. I'm getting old. It was always Movie Town Water Effects, and that it always seemed weird. And it was always when I was training too, and you were now training a supervisor. You would ask the question like, what do they think? And it was always, oh, Batman or Freefall. It's like, nope, Movie Town Water Effects, and it's because.
Did you smack him when they said that? Like,
knew it.
What are you talking about?
I knew you did it wrong, you dumbass. That was fantastic, though. But the Movie Town Water Effects. If you're not familiar with it, you would go up onto the lift. You'd go up, and when you're in that top curve, it's really high from the base and the catwalk, and there's really nothing, no great way of getting people down. But besides even that, and besides the awkwardness of getting people out of the boats, they really weren't too secure. I think we said it earlier on in the call with the breakdowns. Hey, they're locked in, they're not going anywhere. A lot of times you get the water effects and people, it's just like a train of people coming down the lift. You're like, oh, okay. I guess we're doing this, nothing's locked out yet. You know what I mean? Like they're just coming down, so that was always definitely the first spot. And then the cool thing about if we could all go back, I think that's probably what we would all want to do. I would be like, give me a power failure, I think it was pretty fantastic. Because a lot of it too was it was different every time. I don't know is there some is there somebody to cover Batman and Freefall, or am I going Movie Town Water Effects, getting it in order, getting the people out of both, boom, then I go to Freefall, then I go to Batman. Sometimes that was the case, and that was the order. But one of the cool things, and maybe a little cheesy to say, but the camaraderie of supervisors and everybody just jumping in to help was awesome, though. It really was. And you'd start hearing people like, I got Freefall, I got Batman, and so on, throughout the park, which is a really cool thing to see in motion.
Well, that also, like, if you were in a roller coaster section, like if you had 120 or 130, especially 120, that became a necessity because every ride you have to evacuate, you have to lock out. And what a lockout is we all had this little lock and had a little mechanism on it. And we would put the power off on the ride, click this thing on and click our lock in, and nobody else had a key. So while we're unloading the ride, that ensures the power can't be turned on accidentally on a roller coaster or a flume or anything like that. And the fucked up thing is, like, if nobody comes to help you, you have 5 rides in 120 that all have to be locked out to be evacuated, and probably all have to be evacuated. And you're the only suit with the lockout. So if people aren't helping you, that's a lot of weight in those other rides are doing. So.
Yeah, man, that's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I think you even said it. I know when I was in games, I came out and helped a couple of times. I think you did too, right?
Greatest. Yeah, that was the greatest. A couple times dressed and working, even one time in plain clothes, which was fantastic. It was a power failure, and obviously, it's like all hands on deck, and I helped with the unload on the top of Scream Machine, which was awesome. Why are we listening to this guy? had to introduce myself.
Exactly. I swear to God, I work here, and
who's this guy?
Love it.
Nice.
All right, well, guys, I think we're hitting our hour mark, so I think we're gonna wrap up. We pretty much hit our target of once per month, which is what we're aiming for during the COVID season. So the endless COVID season.
Exactly. Season. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I'm looking at it. It's just like one long season that just doesn't seem to want to end.
It never ends. Another movie. It never ends.
That I have been Steve Hicks and
Scott Loudon
and Chris Peluso.
And as always, helping us record this entire thing is our friend Ming Chen. And we'll sign off by saying what we always say. We hope you all make it a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Make it a great day.
Amen.